Hi, everybody. I'm Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Now, this week, we are bringing back one of our favorite friends, Andrea Yoch, one of the founders of Minnesota Aurora, now on the board. She's been president. She's been hanging banners. She does everything to bring Minnesota Aurora here to Minnesota, and it has grown. This is now year 3. As we tape this, they're now 33 straight regular season games without a loss. The only losses have come in the championship games, and they want to resurrect that and change that, I should say, this year. So we have Andrea to talk about the state of women's sports, especially Minnesota, and how we love the men's support. Jim is our biggest cheerleader, so we're talking women's sports today.
As Dawn and I always talk about, this show isn't just about women's sports. We talk about all the sports. Dawn's very involved with the coverage of the Vikings. I cover everything in town. But there are certain moments where really you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't highlight the great things going on in the world of women's sports. This is one of those times. And that's one of the reasons we have on today's guest, who's already on with us, Andrea Yoch, one of the founders of the Minnesota Aurora, has worked in all kinds of sports and media industries around town. Let's just lay it out here on Dawn of Sports, starring Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. The Minnesota Aurora, once again, having a great season. The PWHL team from Minnesota wins the inaugural championship. The Minnesota Lynx are the surprise team in the WNBA. Cheryl Reeve is right now, she's probably the WNBA Coach of the Year. She's also the coach of Team USA heading to the Olympics. The player she took 6th in the draft a few years ago is on the Olympic team, Nafisa Collier, for the second time. And they have the Olympic gymnastics trials coming to Target Center, which has been such a great site for so many women's events in recent years. We'll talk men's sports too, but let's get into all that. Again, it's Dawn of Sports, starring Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. Andrea Yoch is our guest. I'm Jim Suhan from Star Tribune. Brandon Morton is our producer. Best way to listen to this show or any other show at talknorth.com is to subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. Thanks to our long-running sponsor, Rudy Luther Toyota. Thanks also to Beta Bay Boat Club. And we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. So let's start with Andrea on this topic. Cheryl Reeve is not only one of the great figures in sports in Minnesota and the country and now in the world, she also takes the time to champion anything she thinks is on the right side of history, and especially women's sports. What's it like for you as someone who founded a women's sports team to, be friendly with Cheryl and to see Cheryl having all the success?
Well, first of all, Cheryl is the embodiment of what everybody is trying to do in women's sports: be successful on the court, represent off the court, and be unabashedly loud about how much attention the women deserve to have. And so every good thing that happens for Cheryl, I can't help but celebrate every time. Well, right now, the way the team is playing is amazing. But also there's just a lot of joy right now with the Lynx. And that has a lot to do with Cheryl and how she approaches bringing players in. And it's something that we've been really fortunate to have at Minnesota Aurora too. It's not just about, the right stats or anything else. It's really about how you bring a team together. And she's the master of it.
What's it like to watch someone like Cheryl operate?
I don't know actually how she does it. So currently being in a basketball season while planning for the Olympics is a little mind-boggling to me. And then also showing up in all the places. Cheryl and her wife Carly were at our home opener because it was important to show up, and they stayed through the whole game. To me, anytime Cheryl does something like that, I either wonder if she has a body double or if she sleeps, because committing, it's one thing to say publicly, yes, support women's sports, but then to have the amount of pressure she has and then show up and support us is incredible, right? It's what it's about. You have to show up. And I was laughing with them because I bought tickets for the home opener for the Lynx before I saw what time tip-off was. And then I saw it was an 8:30 tip-off. And at first I was like, I can't make an 8:30 tip off. And then I thought, no, I need to show up because she always shows up for us. And it turned out to be a tremendous game, even though we didn't leave Target Center until 11:45.
And Andrew, if I can jump in on that, it's she says that matters and also showing up matters, whether it's going to the Aurora games where she's probably exhausted, or she and Carly with supporting the PWHL. They actively look at the numbers too of who is viewing these games, on TV. I know that you guys now are on Fox 9 Plus, but they're not just paying lip service and just showing up and taking the pictures. Behind the scenes, they're active to make sure that this happens for all women. Not just their team, obviously, not just Minnesota teams. They want the platform for women to grow. And that's what's been most impressive for me. They're tireless, like you said, but it's encompassing everybody when it comes to their mission. Like, let's get men in and watch these games. Let's, hey, turn on the TV. If it's a good product, people are going to watch. And the Aurora, kudos to you guys, have shown that. It doesn't matter if it's a professional level or not. If it's good, people will watch it. And they have been saying that from the moment they got here.
Yeah, and I think that what the Lynx have done, and Cheryl and Carly, is they've primed the pump so that all the rest of us have been able to benefit, right? They've been working so hard, and Cheryl in particular, at demanding the women be respected and paid attention to, that by the time we came along, it wasn't easy, but it certainly wasn't as hard as it was when Cheryl started. We weren't having to justify, well, you covered the men's soccer team, you should cover the women's soccer team. It has, since we've started Aurora, it has been about the stories and about the athletes and about what we're doing as an organization. And Cheryl really helped pave the way and make it really about what fans want and helping the media be receptive to, it doesn't matter if it's men or women. If this is a good story and it's something that we think the community is going to be interested in, we should tell it. And that's a lot on Cheryl, not just here, but I'm sure it's had an impact across the country too.
So, Andrea, let me ask you this question. We were just at the game together, the latest victory for Aurora. And what I love, and it's hard to quantify this for, first of all, the age of the team. And second of all, it's not professional. A lot of these women are just trying to navigate their college years. But to have 33 straight regular season games without a loss, but to not have that weigh on these women, and it's not boastful either. Like, I'm amazed at that balance. What have you noticed?
What I've really noticed has become a hallmark of this team and has survived through a coaching change. Our whole coaching staff changed, is the joy that our players play with. Last night after the game, Katie Duong had a tremendous game, and she's had a couple really good games in a row. And somebody asked her, what was going on that was making her game so strong. And her answer was, I am having so much fun. And I think that when you play with joy and you play light of spirit, you can really accomplish great things. And I was watching videos the other night when Sylvia Fowles showed up at the Lynx game, and she was dancing with everybody before the game. That is something that I think athletes really value and makes them be able to feel more aggressive, feel more like they can try something different, or maybe take that extra shot that's not at a great angle, because I don't think they have fear of repercussions, right? They're being encouraged to push and to try. And when it works, everybody's so happy and the crowd reacts so strongly that then they just want to do it again. And that's what we're seeing, is how much fun our players are having.
Yeah, it's that playing free, without judgment, and you can open up. Sylvia can also do it now because she's a champ, she's not playing, but she brings that joy. And so to have that while you're actually playing, I think is the key. It's so hard to get there, whether you're a professional, whether you're not, whether there's always so many pressures on people, or the amount of people at a game. I might think about that too much, but the other women, whether it's on your team or whether it's on the Lynx, the other women around them make it fun. So you're actually having fun with them. What I did enjoy is, and I've known this for the past couple of seasons, but when Mariah kind of does those celebrations and gets the whole team, she got the whole team involved, even the bench. So she said she wants to get the fans involved in some of these celebrations. So it's not just the person that celebrated and who's on the field. I think she drew an arrow, and they let the arrow fly, and, it hit the people on the field, then it hit the bench. It's about including everybody. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I saw somebody post on Twitter or X last night that it's a mutual admiration society between the fans and the players. And I think that was a great way to describe it. There is so much love going back and forth between the players and the fans. And I don't know where it starts. I don't know if it starts with the players and the fans reciprocate, or it starts with the fans, but that's all you feel in the building. Is it doesn't matter who's doing what, where, it's connecting with a fan somewhere in the stadium, and people take those memories with them. People leave the building smiling. The players are smiling. I was watching a lot of our videos this morning from the game last night, and all you see is laughing and dancing and smiling. And I think that's rare. I think it's rare in sports. It doesn't matter what the gender is. Right. And when you have it, you want to appreciate it and take every minute in.
Let's get into some more current events here. Appreciate Andrea joining us. We do want to thank our longtime sponsors on this network, and especially as supporters of women's sports, Rudy Luther Toyota.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Also want to thank Beta Bay Boat Club.
Beta Bay Boat Club offers a limited number of season-long memberships in our private club and half-day or full-day pontoon boat rentals on Lake Minnetonka. Members have the opportunity to play on luxurious pontoon boats, as well as a variety of well-appointed deck boats, speedboats, and offshore boats. Our daily pontoon boats are deluxe, custom-built boats with many amenities and comfortable seating for up to 14 people. Beta Bay Boat Club, Country Club Boating, 24 years in business and voted Minnesota's best 3 years in a row. Please visit us at betabayboatclub.com for more information. We look forward to welcoming you this summer.
And a reminder, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. So the women's Final Four at Target Center was a massive success. The women's Big Ten Championship basketball tournament was a major success. And now you have the gymnastics trials coming to Target Center this weekend. We're recording here on a Friday morning. A week from now, the gymnastics event will be going on. You have Simone Biles in town. You have Suni Lee in town. Is there something special about this city when it comes to women's sports, or is this happening elsewhere around the country? What's your sense, Andrea?
I think it's special for the city. We've been doing a lot of prep work and research about, what the future looks like for Minnesota Aurora. And when you look at what's happening around the country and other cities that want to have women's soccer teams, there's a debate. Is it better to start a team in a market where there is no women's sports and there's no history of supporting women's athletics, either through events or through a team? Or is it better to be in a market that has already stepped up and has already embraced women's sports? And I think what we're seeing here in the Twin Cities is that it is better to be a part of the rising tides. The fact that the Lynx, us, and the PWHL, all within a few weeks of each other, had great crowds and great attendance. We went head to head with Minnesota United 2 weekends ago for the very first time, and we did not see a dip in attendance. We still had over 6,000 fans. And so I think that it's better to be in a place that understands how special the women's sports are, how it increases your chances of seeing a win if you're coming to see one of us play, and that it's a great way to spend an evening. And so I think our market is tremendously primed for an incredibly bright future for women's sports.
What I think was really cool, Andrea, when we were speaking to some of the parents of the players last night, and one particular player is from New Zealand, and her father was saying how you guys draw a bigger crowd than men's teams back in New Zealand, that you could see that their family was so energized by what's going on. And maybe perhaps, and I want to get your take, do you think a little surprised that here in the States, in Minnesota, a stadium in Eagan, Minnesota, had that much celebration for women?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not from this area, you don't really know what Minnesota is about. And when I moved here from the East Coast, people thought I was going to, live in a tent with a stagecoach. So there's a lot of things that people don't understand about Minnesota. And I can remember my first probably 10 years out here, especially when I was working on the Super Bowl in 1992. I would go home and I would say to people, yeah, I'm working on the Super Bowl. I said, the Super Bowl is coming to Minnesota? And it's almost like there's so much misunderstanding about the state. And yet we support all these amazing things. And so once people see it, they get it and they want to be a part of it and they want to stay here.
Yeah, my friends from the East Coast that come in here and have never been, they go, this is sneaky good.
Yeah,
I know it is. Don't tell
I'll
everyone.
say to my friends in New York, my friends in New York and I love New York. It's like, well, how many Super Bowls have you been to? How many times have you seen Taylor Swift? How many times have you been to the Final Four or the Ryder Cup or U.S. Gymnastics? I've done all those things here in my market, without having to get on an airplane. It's pretty special.
Well, when I moved here from Dallas a long time ago, I swear to God, I would say, other than the people who were journalists, and journalists are curious and understand, geography and everything else, people who were not journalists who I knew in Texas didn't know where Minnesota was.
Jim, I didn't know where Minnesota was. And
really?
when I flew out here.
It's just north of Canada. It's simple.
I know. Well, when I flew out here, it's a true story. My first job was at the Albert Lee Tribune. I was hired on the phone. There was no internet. So we were driving down 35W to Albert Lee, and I saw a sign that said Sioux Falls. And I had my states memorized, like conceptually. I just didn't have them laid out on a map. So I saw a sign that said Sioux Falls. And I said to my boyfriend, now husband, I was like, is that Sioux Falls, Iowa? And he said, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what are we doing near South Dakota? And then the next sign says Des Moines. And then, so you're at this intersection of I-90 at 35W. And I'm like, where am I? Well, what have I done? My geography was awful. I had no idea.
Well, my geography was okay, only because I had been here a couple of times for baseball, but you fly in. And I guess I didn't realize how light it stays out late. This is a true story. So I'm from Boston, pretty far north, worked in Chicago, pretty far north. So when I came here and it was the summer, right? Because I started in November. And so when the summer came and I'm watching our television, I'm like, why didn't that person wait till it got dark to pre-tape their stand-up? And someone goes, what are you talking about? They're live. I'm like, what? And they go, look outside. And I looked at it because it was like 9:15 and it was light out. And literally they said, your mouth was open. You're looking at the TV. You're looking back at the window. You're looking at the TV. Looking back, like my brain just imploded. And I said, I knew conceptually that Minnesota was so far north, but I hadn't lived it. And I've never had that experience before. And now I live it for it, in the summers for the sun to not go down to after 9, like 9:30 sometimes. But you start thinking like, I'm a smart, intelligent woman. I know my geography, but how come I was shocked at that?
The one that really screwed me up on the women's sports topic is apparently I had not learned my lesson about geography in Minnesota. And when the World Cup was in Canada, when the Women's World Cup was in Canada, Never occurred to me that we could just drive there. And then suddenly the World Cup is happening and people are posting all these pictures having driven up to Winnipeg for games. And it was only then that I realized it was a pretty easy drive. And what was I still doing sitting in the Twin Cities when I could have driven to Canada to watch women's soccer?
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, it has definitely taken me a while to quite understand the geography, but I think I have it now.
One of the things that jumped out at me, especially when I became a baseball writer and started traveling regularly to Toronto, is that Toronto is south of Minneapolis.
Yes.
Yeah. It's sometimes when you're looking across the country, you're realizing how far north we are when you're trying to figure out how long it takes to get like to Florida, for instance. That's a long way from us.
Yes. And San Diego. San Diego is like a 5-hour flight. At least it feels like one. Hey, one more point I wanted to get to today, because we've talked all about the cool things happening in women's sports around here. This is just to reiterate something Dawn always says. Promoting women's sports doesn't mean you're trying to take anything away from men's sports, and doesn't mean we're not going to talk about men's sports. Andrea, you've worked for men's sports teams, and I know both of you, care and cover and keep an eye on the men's sports teams. What was the Timberwolves run, especially for someone who knows the Ethan over with the Timberwolves so well? What was it like for you to watch the Timberwolves run?
It was really fun. And I think that when you're on a team that is running side by side with the team that's on fire, you just need to step aside and let them have their moment. So watching everybody get really excited about the Timberwolves makes everybody happy, right? That's one of the things I love about sports. When your teams are doing well, it really just lifts up your whole market. People want to talk about it. They get excited. They're buying the gear. And I think it just reconnects all people with sports, and it makes you want more. When you have that feeling, now it can also be a negative feeling, but when you have that positive feeling of those wins and sharing it with all those people, you just want more of it. And so I think it lifts all of us up when teams are doing well. When the PWHL game 5, when they thought they'd won, I was in the building. Everybody, oh my God, so and then when it got taken, that goal got taken away. Oh boy. I mean, talk about all the feelings in 30 seconds. So when they won again for real a couple of days later, it just makes everybody want it more. And now Carly and Cheryl and I have talked about, let's have a run of the women's teams this year. How amazing would it be if us, the Lynx, and PWHL and the Vixen all won our championships in 2024? It's not out of the realm of possibilities.
You talk a little bit about the Timberwolves, and it's kind of surreal for me right now because as we tape this podcast, I'm actually watching from Boston the Celtics celebrate their 2024 NBA title. And I don't want people to say, ooh, boo. I just think that when you look at the core of the Celtics, it took them a while to get here. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they played together for a long time before they got this. And to see how the Timberwolves have gelled in such a short time with a group that people said, oh, Kat can't fit into this and Rudy can't. And, Anthony Edwards isn't a leader. Well, that all changed this year. And what I did love seeing, Andrea, is the women's team celebrating them. Like Cheryl, obviously the Lynx and Timberwolves are always connected, same ownership, same everything. But it wasn't it's what about us? We've won how many championships and what's the crowd like? It was like, yes, this is us. And that synergistic embracing of male and female teams in Minnesota, for me, I think is amazing, where players show up for each other's games. That cross support.
We can't do this. I mean, the three of us have talked about this before, right? None of us can do this without each other. Right. My start in Minnesota was with the assistance of Dan Barrero and Jim and men all around me, because that's who was in sports. We can't all sell tickets if we're just selling it to our own gender. It doesn't make any sense. We're one big community. So let's celebrate together. Let's support together. And if basketball is the thing you love, that's great. And you don't love soccer, that's okay. If it's hockey, it's fine. There's over 3.5 million people in the Twin Cities, and that's plenty to fill all of our buildings all of the time if we're putting a good product out there and a good game day experience for the fans. And as long as all the teams are doing that, then supporting each other is easy.
You know, the interesting thing, and we talk about, and I think Jim brought it up with his previous question about how is it around the rest of the country. And here's a small example about how I think Minnesota is leading the way. Here, if a PWHL, we saw Abigail Breen from the Gophers, we saw Madeline Wethington from the Gophers, both be drafted. I've had Madeline Wethington here on this podcast. I mean, we celebrate that. Well, I have a friend of mine whose daughter was drafted, PWHL, out in Detroit. And to have other teams in Detroit be like, oh, what happened? I'm like, well, yeah, are the Lions going to celebrate her? She was wearing a Lions jersey during the draft or this and that. I think, and maybe I'm just speaking out of turn here, but from what I hear from other people in the other markets, they don't have that cross celebration in support of women's sports. That's just starting. And so I would like to see that grow.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've talked to folks at the other teams about it. I don't know if it's because we do all go to a lot of the same events, right? So the team presidents know each other. The vice presidents of communications know each other. The social media managers, invite each other to their games. So I don't know if there's just more networking and relationship building here in the Twin Cities, if it's because we all have an inferiority complex. And so that we know by banding together, we're stronger. But I certainly haven't seen, I've worked in a lot of markets promoting soccer, and I've never seen this one Minnesota organized in other markets. And so for us, it's a tremendous advantage. Dawn, I was telling you yesterday the story about when we launched Aurora and the support we got from the Minnesota Vikings. Talk about putting a new team on the map instantly. That did it. And I don't know that if I was launching this team in Dallas, let's say, that the general manager of the Cowboys would have held up my scarf.
Right.
I worked in Dallas. He would not have.
Right. You got Kwesi right out of the gate on, his intro on social media to hold up that scarf. That was amazing.
Yeah. And that's the Vikings being supportive, right? It wasn't like I had some previous relationship with Kwesi. I don't think any of us knew who he was until 36 hours earlier. And same thing. It's across the board. Jared Spurgeon over at the Wild, right? We've thrown out first pitch at the Twins. They're constantly, hey, how can we help? The players want to come over. And even behind the scenes, the stuff the public doesn't see. Our first year building Aurora, Derek Scherer over at the Saints helped me with budgets. Here's how you figure this stuff out. The Vixen were helping us with their travel expenses. Carly and Cheryl, Carly's been so generous helping with sponsorship packages. And this is how we do things. So the stuff the fans don't even see is helping us all run our businesses. And it gives you more confidence when you're starting from scratch because all these people are out there as resources. And I really don't think that exists in other markets.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, by the way, we had a great time having you all out at the last time our band played. We're going to be back at the Lynx August 9th.
No, we're not going to talk about that, Jim.
Well, we're not going to talk about specifics, but it was a fun time.
Yeah.
But last winter.
All right, I'm slow to that. That was funny.
Last winter, we celebrated Dawn's birthday and Jerry Holt's birthday, the great photographer from the Star Tribune. And it made it such an epic event on top of just being a fun night. So I got to ask, Andrea, when's your birthday?
Yeah. Luckily, we just passed it. It was May 21st.
Okay, close enough. So I think we're going to celebrate your birthday at Lynx August 9th. We're also playing Basement Bar July 6th and Tuttle's August 2nd. But I think Lynx is the right place for a birthday bash. So August 9th,
Absolutely.
I think we should have an Andrea Yoch birthday party and half birthday party for Dawn.
I think about 6 months apart from those parties is what I needed to recover.
Yes. That's why I'm spacing things out.
I appreciate that, Jim. I will say I was so happy that night. So Don, we were talking about joy that the players have being together.
Yes.
It's the same for all of us. And That party that night, Jim, with you guys playing and all of our friends were together in the same room, and everybody works on different sports. Everybody's on different schedules. So for us all to be together in the same room, it is a lot like when a team is vibing. And I was so happy that night. I had such a great time.
It was a blast. It was one of the coolest nights I've ever had. So I appreciate you all showing up, and it was just so much fun. All right.
Circle August 9th.
Great show. Thank you so much. I'm going to let each of you just offer a final thought on anything you like. Let's start with Dawn, and we'll end with Andrea.
My final thought is I am so happy for not only the young women that are coming up in sports, but also the young men, how they just celebrate each other. I see a lot of the young college athletes supporting the women and like saying, well, this is awesome. And you're seeing it amongst like professional people now. Like you see the pro athletes celebrating the WNBA and whatnot. I'm so happy for women going forward because, and I hate to say, like back in my day, I didn't have that, but we didn't, it just, my brothers supported me. They were all for it because I played with them in the backyard and they came to my games. And so I've always had that support, but just to see it just grow and just to see the friendships and the strength and the confidence that women are getting moving forward from this, and to see that, okay, people do want to see women play. I just love what I'm seeing going forward, and it's not an us against them, it's a together.
Yeah, and I would say for me, it's even the behind the scenes. It's our game day staff, our volunteers, the people applying for jobs. It's a mix of everyone. And so when I walk around the stadium at night and I see all kinds of different people, all ages of people having a great time and unified around women's soccer, that's what really it's all about. Because in this world that is fractured in a lot of ways, sports is one of the last great places that people come together and root for the same thing or work towards the same goal. And for us, having that blend of people is really what our goal was from the beginning. And seeing the young men wanting to work for Aurora as much as the young women want to work for us means that we're doing something right. And this next generation isn't going to care about the differences.
Great stuff. Really enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Dawn, as always. Thanks to Brandon, as always. Hey, excuse me. Subscribe to this show. If you like the show, please subscribe. It'll give you notifications when the show is ready each week. For Brandon, for TalkNorth.com, thanks for listening.